Hey guys, Patterns in Paradise welcomes you, philosophical travelers, old and new. We have yet another podcast,
packed with contrast, meandering through wacky roads of mind, combining curious tangents intertwined. I'm Reggie.
And I am Monk. Enjoy!
Guess who's back? It is Reggie and Monk with another episode where we are going to be delving into a little bit more detail for the positive seeds and removing those negative seeds. Monk, what are we going to be speaking about in regards to the details?
Imagine this as the layers of a cake. Last week's episode, we brushed on the first layer, the initial base of the cake, setting a few thoughts in order, positive thoughts, negative thoughts, and the effect that these little thoughts can have on the rest of our day. We gave a couple of examples of real life incidents, being cut off by someone in traffic, bringing bad vibes into an office space and how that can really destroy the day for everyone else around you. And as well as examples of, you could say, positive stimuli, positive examples of controlling one's anger, controlling one's potentially negative emotions in the moment, controlling one's negative thoughts, and learning to then channel them into more productive areas that don't, my English language, that don't then, it's like, oh my God.
He's speaking Russian.
Mate, I wish at this point in time, I wish I knew what the hell we were saying in my language or something. Oh, shit.
Anyway,
as we were saying, understanding how to incorporate potentially negative emotions in a positive way in our day by saying, for example, why are we feeling angry today? Why did something this person tell me frustrate me? Why did I get uncharacteristically anxious at this time in the day? Normally, I'm very chilled at this time in the day. And really getting to dig deep and understand how an event which happened at the beginning of the day or at the beginning of the week can affect us even till now, just because we've been unaware of its deeper psychological effects on our bodies and our psyches.
yeah. So I'd say the ultimate sort of question, and the thing is I was actually thinking about this yesterday when I took my walk, which I've been doing fairly regularly recently. Reason being is because I'm currently staying with my grandma, as you know, simply to reduce certain costs and try and save so much money so that we can actually move into our place together, hopefully 6th of August. Anyway, which I'm well excited for, by the way, which is also on the beach, may I add. I'm currently staying about 150 to 200 yards away from the beach. So I've decided to take it upon myself to be taking these little walks every evening, if I can, at least half an hour. But yesterday I was like, okay, you know what? It's been a difficult day. I'm going to take an hour to just relax my mind. So I took a good, nice little walk, and I was sitting, and I was actually looking out to the sea. There's a couple of boats here and there where there's thousands of people on these boats. I'm thinking, okay, how many people are actually around right now, left and right of me, and in front of me? Hundreds, thousands. There's an incredible amount of people, and how many of these individuals are actually taking the time to think about themselves? Do we specifically spend more than even 10 minutes thinking about how we feel in that day and how we have specifically felt within certain events that have happened in our days? I reflected a good half an hour on my own life within that day And I tell you what, I felt 10 times better when I came back through that door. So a question to ask yourselves is simply, do you actually reflect on your own life rather than what someone else has given a perspective on, rather what maybe your partner has said to you, or a colleague, or your family members? Are you thinking on topics that people are giving such a judgment for? Are we specifically giving ourselves enough time to actually think, what are we doing? Why are we in this position? Take a minute to ask yourselves 3 questions. Why am I here? What am I doing this for? And how has this happened? Those 3 questions will give you enough time to actually reflect on yourself within that moment so that you can actually grow. Because as soon as you start asking these kind of questions about yourself, your brain will subconsciously start processing those questions and start creating thoughts in your mind without you even wanting, because it's a subconscious question. You're not asking it to someone. You're asking it in your head. You're asking it to yourself.
Matched with, in conjunction, taking the time each day by, let's say, blocking out certain portions of the day. Let's say in the morning, maybe with a bit of journaling or meditation, or just some time to oneself, or maybe a block in the evening after work with yourself, going for a walk, for example. And how underrated, how frighteningly, oh my God, frighteningly underrated that is as a daily source of being able to maintain one's calm, regulate one's inner emotions, whilst at the same time giving opportunities for our brains to be able to go through the day, sift through all the billions of little pieces of data that have been taken in, and then be able to process it and figure things out at speeds thousands of times quicker than we could consciously ever conjure up these thoughts. However, by same token, the way we can control this immense speed of the subconscious mind in terms of its processing power of just going through raw data and figuring things out is through those questions. I mean, Jim Quick in his book, Limitless, points out how many times in life when things aren't going the way we want them to go, it's because we're asking the wrong questions. We're asking the wrong questions of ourselves. And it's freaky because by asking the right questions, or at least trying to start asking more questions of oneself on a day-to-day basis, with the desire to know the answer, mind you, right? That's a big one, is we actually have to know the answer to these uncomfortable questions.
Do we?
I mean, it's the intention behind it, isn't it? I mean, as much as one can ask themselves that same question 100 times, like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? Or the questions you mentioned, Reg, why am I here? What am I doing this for? And why has this happened? Were those the 3 questions?
Yeah. Now, are you going to have a specific answer to each of those questions in that moment? No.
Unlikely. No.
You won't be able to answer every single one of those questions directly in that moment. Why? Because you need to give yourself time to reflect and time to actually analyze what's happened. And that's what planting those seeds is going to do. Now, if we're planting those seeds on a daily basis. Hey,
Are you?
how's it, Moose?
Mikey Moo, man of the house. How you doing?
Don't worry, dude.
This is an official PIP podcast.
Okay.
Welcome. How you doing?
Hey guys, what's up?
Good.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Hurrah.
I'm allowed to do this because
Enjoying
I'm
the
an official
water.
sponsor soon.
Huh?
Yeah.
We have gentlemen here who shall be conducting Trigger Tuesdays and Spiritual
I'm
Sundays.
coming.
Moose Rampage, the most rampageous one of us all. Good lad, good
Don't worry.
lad.
We'll
Topic
figure out
of the day.
nakedness.
It's good.
I'm not naked.
Nakedness is unique. It's all right.
We just wanted to also mention that we are going to be posting this podcast on YouTube in addition, which is actually also in the description, which you can find through Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, and many more other platforms. So don't forget to check out the video as well.
Topic of the day, the power of planting positive thoughts in our minds on a daily basis, and thus the power of planting.
No, that's the topic.
That's the topic, and
Gotcha.
how we can then form positive lifestyles as a result of the positive thoughts.
Okay.
Anyways, to
Right,
answering
picking it
those
up.
two questions. Now, we're never actually going to find that answer. So I'll tell you exactly why. Simply because if you ask yourself, for example, Moose, why am
Yeah.
I here?
Why am I here?
Yeah. Are you going to actually know the reason?
Came to get water. Give me your water.
Why are you here? There is
I came for the water.
thousands of
No,
different
more-
alternative
more
answers
macro.
to that question. How you
What
answer
if you
that
know your-
question determines
you know
your
that-
mentality
what do you
on
know-
your next action.
What if you know your truth? What if you know your truth, bro?
That's the point. You need to find your truth. And how do you
I
find
know
your
why I'm here.
truth?
I know why I'm here.
Why are you here?
Because I have a religion which I believe in and I've seen divine things happen.
Okay.
I'm here to carry out the will of God.
Which is?
Changes, it's hard to find. So that's where it gets tricky.
Okay. And what
Let me jump
happened-
in here in the middle.
What
Wait,
happened
sorry, Rich.
specifically?
Can I jump in here just quick, brother?
Go for it.
It's kind of like a pinball almost. It's kind of tough sometimes to know the exact specific degree of where you're going, but so long as one is moving in the general direction of the goal, one is trusting in. Some would call it, intuition in a deeper sense. It's
Faith.
It's faith, man. It's this like the spirit of God
I'm off
speaking
camera, you
through.
gotta shift over.
Shifting over. Welcome. It's being willing enough to hear the spirit of God, or the spirit of the divine actually speaking to us and giving us that, like the little advice, the guidance each day, the little intuitions, the gut feelings that can make the difference between us having a really good day or a really bad day.
I'll answer the question from a true believer's perspective. So we were saying that why we're here. So in 2 words, Deus Vult in Latin, God's will. Now you need to find out what it is you're supposed to do, which is a thing by itself. But if you can't find that out, now I really do live my life according to this religion. So if you don't have a direct purpose, you're given many things to do. You're supposed to be a disciple to the nations. You're supposed to go and cast out demons and fight evil, pretty much. Okay, it's like a superhero thing, actually. And then if that's what you're commanded to do, you're commanded to live your life in a particular way in order to try and be able to qualify to actually do something. If you can't live your life in a particular way, you won't qualify to actually do much. So that's how it kind of works. And then as you try and live your life according to the statutes, you go through a process of transformation throughout your whole life called sanctification. When you get sanctified, you start changing. And then as it goes on, you get purpose given to you, or missions that are given to you. by God, and then that becomes your purpose. And then what happens is, like, you guys have known how crazy my life's been the last while.
Yeah.
You get tested intensely as to whether you really are going to do anything, especially if you've been given your purpose. Once you've been given your purpose, the enemy comes to try and destroy it immediately. And God kind of lets him to check if you are
Ready to do it.
the wheat of the chaff. Yeah. And if you're not, you can lose that purpose and be given to somebody else. Actually, it says
Yeah, that's just going to fall straight through the roof if you're not prepared.
Yes. So it can even be taken from you and given to someone else if you fuck up badly enough. So, but it's actually a really amazing thing to have that whole journey I'm describing in your life, because before that, I just wanted money, or I just wanted success, or I just wanted a new car, or I just wanted to go to a place. And it was a very shallow existence. And this is what most people do.
Could I ask you then one question? In
Yes.
terms of your purpose, with your goal that was set out, the purpose itself and the goal are fairly similar,
Goal is,
right?
yeah, it's like the journey is actually
there.
my purpose.
But the
Yeah,
purpose, the reason as to why you were doing it has alternated. So the original purpose for doing it was potentially for the wrong reason, which is what had actually been tested of you. And now what's happened? It's flipped. And it's just like, oh my God, this is why I need to
that's
do it.
what's happened. It's exactly what happened. It's actually was like, even when the purpose was given to me, I was doing the purpose for the wrong goal. Goal was to make money, even when I had the purpose. And then I had to be honed in the fires of tribulation to change myself, to realize that, my purpose, that it's not actually about money or about any of the stuff that I was originally thinking. Those are just byproducts of things. It was about doing what God wants to be done. And in order to figure that out, it is incredibly difficult, because you have an ego and you have ideas and you have your own things that you want to do. And you have to try and erase those to a certain degree, or merge those into what you believe God is telling you to do. And you have to sacrifice a lot of things that are very dear to you. Yeah.
I was just going to say,
you have to sacrifice a lot of
perspective in regards to something else that also would throw a spanner in the works. It's not only your own ego, it's not only your purpose, but it's also the viewpoint of others, which does throw a massive spanner in the works, because it could be how much I'm relying on the opinion of someone else. Now, some people
that must go immediately. Immediately. That is the biggest. Yeah, that's the hard. That's hard because that stuff gets, like, you get stripped of a lot of stuff. If you really go and try to do something for God, he will immediately show you how messed up you are, and what your intentions are, very impure. And but what happens though in the scriptures is, whenever somebody truly releases and gives God the reins, at the end, the outcome and the journey is so dramatic and powerful that it actually supersedes anything that you originally thought. Like, my highest thoughts when I started this were like launch parties and some basic contracts, and like now I'm like looking at like 5 countries, like all around the fucking global terrorism hotspots, and I never imagined doing this stuff here. Like, and that's the direction we keep moving in. And the evaluation was 800 million on my valuation for my for the thing, and I was like, ridiculous number I couldn't imagine. Everything, as I release and let go and God takes over it, it becomes like majestically greater, and it's like, it's quite awe-inspiring to see that. If you see it step by step, it actually is ridiculous, because you realize how much God helped me throughout the whole process, and how disobedient I was the whole time, virtually, just like the Jews in the desert, like with Noah and stuff. It's like, it's so similar, the journey. And every time there are miracles which happen, like actual miracles happen to advance things forward, to move things forward. And it's like,
how can we stipulate this and probably, let's say, articulate this to someone that might be listening or watching, that would maybe be wanting to understand, how do I see these potential signs?
So it's a really hell of a question. It's like, because you have to commit to God at some point, right? And like that is something that
commitment.
And obviously because I'm a Christian, I commit to God. I follow the Bible. So if you're a Buddhist or something else, you will maybe commit to your own faith or what have you. And I really don't have much to say on that matter, but I can tell you this, that the spiritual realm is the spiritual realm. But well, I won't go down that rabbit hole, but what I'll tell you is, for people that are watching and that want to try and figure that out, you have to commit to higher forces and things like that. And so there's a spiritual component. Without that spiritual component, my life was very empty, and I really tried virtually everything else. Everything I thought that would make me happy did not make me happy. Everything that I was going after did not really satisfy. Nothing did fill this void sort of area. But when I committed to God, and I had no idea, God started leading me down. Like, I had no intention to be in software. I had no intention to be in software. I wanted to be a soldier. Okay. And God took me to a software development company, and I had no exposure with software development. And I started doing, working in software, for God's sakes, man. I was like, I hated the computers. And I didn't actually hate computers. I really enjoyed the work in making projects work and things like that. And then over the course, I was thrown into weapons more. I had been thrown into combat and I learned how to shoot when I was 13, and all my family went to guns and stuff like that. Not really into guns, but I was always exposed to it. And then it was like my whole life was leading towards what I'm doing now. And God had been it had been pre-planned that I picked up the skills that I picked up.
It was almost like from such a young age, there were little seeds that were planted that maybe are just germinating now, 25 years later.
100% correct. And the biggest one was cultivating an element of a combative mindset. And what all my brother and I ever did was fight and train for fighting. That's all we ever did. That was our big passion. It's all we did all the time when we weren't at school. So it's like, that's being reconciled from a warfare perspective in software and to business and to the Bible even. When I read the Bible, because I did not become a Christian in a normal way, I equated the Bible to exactly what I think it is, the battle against good and evil. And like the heaven and hell, angels and devils, it's very binary for me, very binary. But
that's the thing. If you take it seriously enough, I believe everything that you actually put your purposes to, it will physically show results in regards to whether you're going to reap benefits or get extreme sort of burn
consequences.
It's the manifestation.
You're going to get that negative sort of impact hard as heck if you actually truly believe in stuff. You're expecting.
Yes, exactly true. I can't remember who said it. They said that when you stand up for serious matters, don't be afraid, because great powers and spiritual components start converging on you if you go for very serious matters.
Like, you're making a commitment to not just something. It's not something that's there, because this is something that has been proven in multiple different ways, in terms of physical people being healed, in terms of people actually seeing saints, in terms of people being physically healed from diseases. Yeah. There's multiple different ways of people actually
supernatural
having the divine spiritual effect on their lives.
Experiences.
So this positivity is definitely going to be impacting you if you truly believe in it. Because if you do something that you know or you feel
Yes.
it's going to cause some
so
negativity, it's going to come down on you hard.
Yes. No, that's true. And it's like if you put intention behind things, it's like even in back to fighting, if you put intention behind your punches, like they say hit with intent,
each punch. Yeah.
It changes everything. If you're just jabbing, jab, yeah. But if you jab to hit the guy in the eye or jab to hurt him or break a nose, you start breaking noses. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like that's the kind of thing that your thoughts can use for. Like when you start like adding, if you can really click into a spiritual component and throw it into a normal job. It's not a normal job anymore. It's like suicide bombers and guys are around. Like they really believe in that, what they're doing. That's why they carry it out. Okay. It's dramatic. Or whoever is going up against something. But yeah, my point was also that there are straight up spiritual laws with cause and effect. Do you know what I mean? Faith is a law. There's a result which is given by you doing things based on faith. Faith is the ability to truly go for something and believe that it will happen, but with no, you believe it can, you know? So belief is that step to the faith. And like they're very close cousins, but they're not the same thing. Believing in something gives you a great chance of acquiring it. Having great faith in something is actually a gift in the Bible. It's like not everybody has a measure of faith, it says, but you can also have the gift of faith. And the gift of faith is like a huge amount of faith. That's like parting the Red Sea, okay? Like with Moses, that's the kind of faith that really does crazy stuff. And it's like, but there are so many of those laws. It's like you can see, you know, I also get asked like why, you know, why do some people terrible shit, but they don't seem to suffer consequences? Sometimes because they do terrible shit, and there will be consequences at some point.
Yeah.
But they also have a very unique mindset. Sometimes you can get a really evil guy that has got a really, or a sociopath, and he's going to make great money because he, you know, he actually is following real principles of law, like that, of divine law. And like, you know, in Hebraic thinking or Christian thought, the spiritual, the world we live in is influenced by what happens in the spiritual world first. The spiritual realities influence this place first. So it's like, if you can find a way to interact with spiritual law and be obedient to the things which are written, like they're like gravity in the spiritual realm, then things change here. But if you abuse that, it's close, it's akin to magic if you start messing around with it, but it's not, because laws are laws. So it's like if you persevere long enough, perseverance can produce amazing results. No matter what happens, if you don't quit, you get results. You know what I'm saying? And also, I believe in like it changes you to just have something like perseverance. Because if you persevere long enough, you change. You change everything. Like if you can get knocked down 20 times and get up again, and to the point where you can't, it's almost impossible to get knocked down anymore. You physically, psychologically, everything has changed with you, with that person by the time he's gone through enough. And these are the kind of teachings and lessons which you have to go through in order to try and like truly have a purpose in God. And when you're really trying to do something for God, the devil is well aware as well, and you get attacks, like, and you have to, and every one of them cultivate and allows you to, it forces you to push in two directions. You either go back to how you were and try to do stuff like that, or you push further in to God and the divine path.
Could you describe?
You can't overcome it.
Could you describe further how dark forces and the devil would go about nefarious ways of stopping one from pursuing a righteous cause?
Of course I can. You can go to that in great detail.
Because keeping in mind our viewers may be very inexperienced in particular conversations of talking of, for example, spirituality, Christianity.
Absolutely.
So, for example, another thing to mention is tribulation. You mentioned earlier. If you could cover,
I think maybe dark. I think maybe a podcast on dark forces and spirituality.
I definitely believe that that would be
There's a lot of
separate
ground
podcast we need to go into.
Like maybe we just choose. I'm not going into it if you guys got time, but I'll tell you.
Look, the point of this podcast today was meant to be a rabbit hole. It was meant to be
Well,
90 minutes.
I'll tell you level.
Planting seeds across the future.
Well, high level. You know, the purpose of the kingdom of hell is to overthrow the kingdom of heaven and raise Satan's throne above God. You know, if you look at it like, you know, binary. But during the course of that, the main goal is to capture as many souls as they can, to deny salvation and destroy the saints. To deny salvation and destroy the saints. That is the greatest passion for if you're on, everybody has a destiny in God, every single person. If you start moving towards your divine purpose, your destiny, and they start losing, they think it's serious, they will start coming at you with anything they can.
Right.
All of the problems that you have can get magnified greatly. I'll give you some scriptural examples, like you know, we have Job. Well, no, I'll give you the best. Is Moses. Moses is great. He was a prince of Egypt. When he realized he was actually a Jew, and he started getting upset about what was happening to Jewish people, and he murdered an Egyptian. And then he fled in terror, and his whole life was torn down because he was really trying to, you know, find out the truth of who he was. And God was trying to use him to save everybody, but he couldn't use him. He had to take him into the wilderness for like 40 years, okay, and change his whole method of thinking, everything, and purifying. But
sorry, Mike, let me ask you quick. In terms of Moses' 40 years spent in the wilderness before he was ready to take upon the grand burden of going back into Egypt, confronting Pharaoh and bringing the Jews out of Egypt.
Yes.
So again, this is probably speculation, but what do you think some of the first initial seeds were planted in Moses's head, germinated maybe only 40 years later? Was it a case of, for example, Moses becoming more humble, certain truths that maybe he sought out in the beginning
so
that only flourished later?
So the best way to describe it, there's no seed. He was chopped in half immediately. He was chopped in half from ultra royalty, maximum power, maximum wealth, to a sheep herder in the desert, okay? You don't get a bigger drop than that. You do not get a bigger drop than that. Can you imagine growing up as a pharaoh? You're considered a living God, virtually, okay? To go from that to running away after murdering someone in the middle of the night and living with sheep, guys. Like, I mean, like, the guy went through the most terrifying depression, psychological trauma, rage, every possible depth of emotion you can imagine. His whole life was crushed. And like, this is what happens, you know?
Actually,
I think he knew it was true. He knew he was a Jew. He knew that his people were being executed. And, you know, his spirit, I think, was really like, he fought back and killed that Egyptian we saw harming the Jew. You know, he fought for God's people, but he took a life. But I mean, I'm just saying, it's like, he knew he's had God, his passions took over and he did that action. But it was required for him to flee like that, because God needed to isolate him, and God communed with him during that time. When you go into the wilderness and you have nothing and no one, you pray to God. You start talking to God, because there is no barrier, no distraction, no nothing. Your life has been completely destroyed and you have nothing left. And that's where you start with God, really, on that path. When you have truly nothing left, and that's the hard road, right? It doesn't have to be like that with everybody, but I definitely think that there's a moment of that in every true believer's life where they're like, you know, you can think as highly as you want of yourself, and if God had to ask you to do a great deed, you would be shocked at how readily you would be like, no fucking way. You know, in your mind, you would say, of course, I would be the guy.
Understanding as, let's say, he used the willpower within himself to, let's say, trust the process of actually praying and saying, I'm going to get through this no matter what, but I need some
I
sort
think
of
he didn't
guidance.
have a choice almost. Yeah, I think he almost didn't have a choice. You know, he fled in terror of what would happen to him for killing that man. And he ended up in the wilderness, you know. So like I don't think he had he really was fleeing, you know, like running, and like ended up, you know, at some point of peace after he's exhausted at a sheep with guy taking care of a guy's sheep. You know, the job with the least possible responsibility you can imagine. Funnily enough, he was being trained in a way. He raised sheep. He led a herd of sheep. You get what I'm saying? It's what he was going to be doing with the people of Israel later. Yeah, they had to lead a whole bunch of slaves, and he was a king almost, you know. So he had to, but it was crazy how God was training him for that period by managing.
Okay, let's take that from a different perspective then. What do you think that has done to his character to build it, to make him believe he's actually a stronger individual than he may have originally thought before he became king? Now, provided the fact that maybe he didn't even get the chance to, let's say, flee. Let's say he didn't kill the Egyptian. Let's say he got handed the throne.
Yeah.
There. What kind of character and person would he have become in comparison to what he actually was after actually fleeing the city?
Well, like I say, it's speculation, but you know, he probably would have just, you know, been a spoiled rich kid, man. He probably would have just been a spoiled rich kid if he didn't kill him. Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking, and that's exactly the kind of thought.
Yeah.
I'm believing if we don't test ourselves and put ourselves in an environment that is uncomfortable, we need to get out of our comfort zones. Planting these.
Yeah, of course, but also
by putting ourselves.
Yes, no, I agree with you, but I wanted to also just say, it was a question of God. God took that evil act and turned it into an escape for him. You know, he really saved him by letting him escape during that thing, because he could have, you know, the price would have been execution or something like that. But it's like, so God, that evil act, that sentiment to isolation was used for his benefit in the end. But like you say, when you get, nothing's more terrifying than, like, when you say going out of your comfort zone, there are degrees of that. Going from a king to a sheep herder is a degree and a half, right? But you know, the humility which you gain, you know, it's like you can't. Can
you imagine,
you know,
coming back from that?
There was such huge blessings. There's no coming back. You get changed forever. You know, once you get changed forever, you change. You know, it's like, you know,
once you've hit rock bottom, there is no changing the fact that you know what it's like to be in that position.
Yeah,
you just get handed shit.
Yeah, if you know,
what are you gonna do?
Yeah, exactly. So suffering can produce real blessings, you know, for sure. But it can also destroy you. It can also lead you in a place where you cannot escape. And like, that's what I'm saying, like with God being in the equation, it's always, it's so mighty to have that, because without that, it's like suffering with almost no escape. Even if God were to help you, because Moses didn't know God was helping him ever until God spoke to him eventually through the burning bush. Do you know what I'm saying? That was when he really encountered God. Until that point, he wasn't a believer. Remember, so all these things were happening to him and stuff. But like he wasn't like on a path. He was on a path without knowing he was on a path. You know,
see, this is profound now, because we're talking about something now that's so much deeper than even just planting seeds of thought and, let's say, the seeds of emotion that gets planted within one's mind, one's heart, one's psyche, that then germinate in the future. These are now spiritual seeds. In our first podcast, last week's podcast, episode 5, we had been discussing this primarily from a thought perspective, from an emotional perspective, and from a behavior perspective. But now we see that actually bigger than all of them is certain spiritual seeds which get
Oh,
planted,
George, dude,
which we don't even realize germinate till
no.
40 years later.
Let's talk about spiritual seeds. Okay,
That you
this
plant.
is the shit. First of all, let's talk about a seed. Okay, now a seed has to die before it can become something. Okay, because a seed transforms. It is something that dies, it's consumed, and then it emerges as something else in a way. Okay, if you look at a seed like that, okay, you can look at a seed like that. It's an object. You place it in the ground. It's hidden, whatever. And that the actual seed consumes itself or transforms into real life. It's ibid. It's dormant. It disappears in a way, and something emerges from which is completely different, right? So in a way, you know, seeds have to transform. They have to die. You have to plant them. You have to water them, and then they die and become something else. Okay. So that's just something to consider. We can look into that. But spiritual seeds, anything in the spiritual realm is long lasting. Okay. So if you plant spiritual seeds, expect spiritual growth would be the best way to go about that. And yeah, man, it's like seeds produce fruit, and like this language that you decided to choose is perfect because, you know, in the word they call the any good outcomes are called the fruits. Okay, the fruits of the Holy Spirit, the fruits, right? Fruits are the final outcome of the seeds. Okay, so when you plant a seed, the only reason you're planting a goddamn seed is what? To get fruit.
So and ye shall reap.
So and you shall reap.
Get nutrients.
But you can only reap when you have. Yes. Now you can get seeds which produce good fruit. You get seeds which produce bad fruit. And what we're talking about is the good fruit today, right?
That's the thing.
Today. I'm on.
Wait, whoa, before we go any further, how can we determine what is a good fruit and a poisonous fruit?
Man, what a good question. Okay, so it says.
Sorry, guys, just as a little the wait in between. We've got to jump in here. Slight little break. We're going to sink in the seeds into the ground like an anchor into the water. Speaking of which, Anchor, our podcast host and provider, should be taking a slight little break and introducing Anchor for just 1 second. We're back with you, episode 6 in Paradise.
If you ever wanted to start a podcast but didn't know where to get started, didn't know how to get started, or were intimidated by the whole process of recording, editing, synchronizing, and creating your own podcast from scratch, let alone marketing it and then running analytics, then look no further. Anchor is the premium podcasting platform out there, directly connected to Spotify, and they will directly market and distribute your podcast for you to outlets such as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Radio Public, Pocket Casts, and many other different outlets for free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and create your podcast right from your phone or computer. Right from your phone or computer. With a simple, easy-to-use display that allows you to go from idea stage to recording to publishing in as little time as humanly possible, while teaching you the essential basic skills needed to host, run, and evaluate your own podcast. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. I repeat, anchor.fm to get started. Reggie and I would not be in such a position so easily able to plan out the releases of our podcast step after step after step and getting ideas from inside our brains out into the microphone and out into the public as easy as we are without the use of Anchor. These guys are a game changer and will change your podcasting experience. Anchor.fm to get started.
Back, recording in progress. We're back with Moose Rampage, Reggie Reginald, Monk Diaz. Guys, we're discussing the profound power of spiritual seeds planted from now that may germinate in the future.
Spiritual seeds.
And how does one notice or at least begin to understand a negative seed versus a positive seed, and how we can go about being better.
Great question.
Farmers.
It's a great question.
Take it away, Jim.
So, well, what it describes in the word is that every tree which bears good fruit will remain. Every tree which bears bad fruit will be cast into the fire. Well, basically what they're saying is when you plant seeds, you don't know if the tree is going to become a good tree or a bad tree, but you're planting a tree. But hopefully we can try and figure out how, how to make sure that the tree bears good fruit. So once planting seeds is one thing. That's the baby step. An idea is a baby step. You got to cultivate that. You got to keep it going, and you got to make sure that it becomes a good tree. You know what I mean? Because ideas are well and good, but it's like you need follow through. So for example, if you've got an idea, like you guys had an idea to start a podcast, you know what I mean? And it was just an idea. And as you guys get more into your podcast, I'm sure you're figuring out a whole bunch of stuff you need to do to make it better. And that's cultivation. And then eventually you'll get the real fruit of PIP one day. PIP fruit. PIP fruit.
I have a little profound potential question within that specific answer. Within cultivating those aspects of the said seed, how do we cultivate in such a way that we don't create a poisonous fruit, and that we actually cultivate the good fruit in order to make sure that we are doing what is better for us? Because some people may be creating this, let's say, mango tree, but they're putting everything correctly, but for some reason, something turns that mango rotten before they can even pick it. If you get my metaphor.
Yeah. So there's many things like that. I mean, look, it depends. We gotta clarify what this fruit is, what this tree is, right? Talking about a business, if you're talking about, spiritual stuff, it's like, let's take something simple for now. We'll just talk about a business. You can do all the right things, plan a business, get funding, roll out. You know that you've got a target base of people that want your product, whatever. You produce your product, and then when you say, like, for example, some reason it's rotten, you could have a new law that gets passed, which makes your product obsolete overnight, or something like that. And like there are certain things I think which are outside of our control with regards to whether that fruit's going to be okay. But it's like at the end of the day, if it might have just been a bad tree, you know what I mean? And it's like there's only so much you can be responsible for. But if the outcome if the outcome was a bad outcome, there's only so much you can really take responsibility for. So that's one way of looking at it. But
at what
spiritual
point
matters are more well defined, like with the tree fruits. Not. What were you saying?
At what point do we understand that the tree is creating bad fruits or even poisonous fruits?
Well, I think it's pretty. You got to look at the fruit objectively. If the fruit is bad, the tree is bad. The thing is not going to work. You got to cut it down. So I think it's also a lesson in cutting your losses with this specific example. It's like if you've got a great business and you whatever, and the outcome just ain't cutting it. The outcome's just not going. At some
it's
point,
just not tasty enough.
You're gonna have to do that. Yeah.
Gentlemen, you've just come up with the perfect track for this particular podcast. You know what it is? You gotta know when to hold and when to fold.
You guys are gonna get sued. We can't afford those rights on this program.
We don't want to get sued. Don't chop us down. No, it's still early days now. With the pip fruit on the vine. Gentlemen, take it back over.
Okay.
Skit time. Hit it.
Skitty, scat.
Skitty, scat, scat.
All right. Well, anyways, but
I'm the scat.
Yeah. So anyways, with regards to spiritual fruit, it says the fruit of the Holy Spirit. is long suffering. Damn, what is the fruit of the Holy Spirit? Love, compassion. I can't remember. To be honest with you. But long suffering was in there. It was the fruit of the Holy Spirit. If you can see, so if somebody has the Holy Spirit, you can see that they can withstand long suffering. You know, that they can go through long suffering and they don't become a bad person. I'm sure love was one of them. If
Love definitely seems like something that would be within it.
You know, and there are certain things like that. Yeah, of course it does, right? Always go with love. But there's I think righteousness. But yeah, like, you know, it's like, but when it comes to spiritual things, man, if you plant, we're always planting thoughts. You know, thoughts always can become seeds. But it's like I say, it's about cultivation. You know, you have to try and have an edifying environment where you're building things up the whole time. And like you know, I think the best way to look at it is like, from a creative perspective, you're either creating or you're destroying. You know, you're either being positive or you're being negative. You know, you're either being good or you're being evil. Binary approaches are good. So and like you know, you might have to chop some trees down every now and then to make a good garden.
But so be it, because at least those trees you may cut down may have been the trees that were in the very middle, right? That's the whole idea of like sitting on the fence, and how often your tree has done that, sitting on the fence, not taking a side, death by inaction in a sense. And it's kind of like, what trees do we cut down?
Ain't no tree gonna grow like that. Ain't no tree gonna even grow.
So like, one side or the other side.
No, I'm saying, yeah. So
once the decision's made, at least progress can be started.
Yeah, like, well, what I'm saying is, if an action's involved, that's what I'm talking about. Like when you're raising crops or trees or whatever seeds you are into, they won't grow if you don't work on them. So it's like, but when the fruit's bad, you've worked your best. Fruit's bad, you know, that it's you. There's nothing wrong with doing everything that you can to grow something, and it produces a bad result. You have to take that bad boy. You have to cut that out. You know what I mean? Like, and it goes evidence patterns, everything. You know, like if you are trying to become stronger, and then you get addicted to going to the gym too much, and you start taking juice, and you become a steroid freak, and you're like, I actually got to cut this out. You know what I mean? Like, that tree, I had good intentions, but now I'm a roided out psycho. You know, it's like, okay, cool, buddy. You know, gotta kill that tree.
I would like to build on that point in regards to, at what point do you understand that it's not the seeds that you're planting, it's the soil you're planting the seeds in that's causing the—
Damn it, man, we're so biblical. So biblical. Yeah, well, it's like they say the same parable, man. It's like, you know, it's like a farmer that cast his seed in a field, and some seed fell on the good ground, and some fell on the rocky ground, and some fell by the weeds, and the weeds covered the seeds. All grow at the same time, and all at the same shot.
Some will flourish,
grown around
and
the
some
weeds
will
get
die.
choked out. Yeah, the ones around the weeds get choked out by the weeds and don't make it past the weeds. The weeds crush them. The ones that are on the good ground grow into trees, and the ones that are on the rocky ground, when the storms come, there was not enough soil for them to hold on to. There was like fair weather seeds, you know, whatever. So it's like the ground that you're planting on is another thing. So it's like, if you've got a great idea and you're in the wrong place for that idea, you ain't gonna get much success there. You want to be a pig farmer? You want to be a pig farmer in Israel? Good luck.
Was it potentially to do with, let's say the idea was good, but maybe it was the wrong time, the wrong place, or maybe you didn't have the right people around you to help make that idea happen?
So the wrong people would be weeds. The wrong place is location. You know what I mean?
Right.
Weeds are people and ideas that kill your idea.
That was something I wanted to build on. The time.
Yeah.
That's then.
You have to plant. You have to plant seeds in the right time, bro.
If you're going to be planting, I don't know, let's say
winter crop in summer.
Let's say blackberries. Right. If you're going to plant a blackberry tree or bush just before the summer period, you're a bit of a moron. because they're not going to grow in the summer. They need the winter,
Yeah.
they need the cold, they need the wetness, they need the moisture
Yeah.
to grow properly.
That's timing, baby.
The
Yeah,
time.
that's timing. So it's like that's now all of these things are divinely orchestrated, man. So it's like the time, the location, and the seed. All three of them in a way are given by God, man. Your job is to try and figure those three things out and drop the damn seed in. That's the first step in anything. So it's
learning
like
when to drop
and
it.
that requires some intelligence. Yeah, knowing when, knowing where, and what was the other one?
How?
Knowing who to be around you at the right time, at the right place.
Yeah, right time, right place.
What about for the right reasons? Right. Well, what about the reasons behind one's
Tree
seed planting?
So that's the fruit. Now, this is the thing. You can plant seeds that do not bear, that are for wicked things. You know,
Okay.
that's like so. It's like you know, there are so many analogies with this thing, but it's like each tree is a soul in a way. Okay, you know, if you really want to look at it like that, you plant your seed. You have good. You try to become a good person. You try to become a bad person. If you become a bad person, you can still have a very strong tree that was planted on good soil. It does not produce good fruit at all. But it's a giant fucking redwood. Okay, you know, it's not going nowhere. It's the biggest tree in the damn forest. But at some point, it's not producing any fruit. It'll get chopped down because it has no value. You know, it's a great tree, but it has no value, man.
What's the purpose?
And yeah, well, there's no purpose for it. There's no purpose for it. And those are the trees in your life that you must cut down. Those trees which are so strong, which have been watered your whole life, which you have to cut down to just like Moses to get into.
Scooch over, brother. Scooch over.
To get just like Moses. Okay.
We are going MacGyver.
Yes.
Okay,
Well,
well,
just charging.
We're
Sorry,
trying.
gents, we're having a slight little charging session. Yes, this is all very professional, very professionally done. Top of the rain. There we go.
Sweet. So just like Moses, you know, you talked about getting out of your comfort zone. You got to chop down those trees to get out of and go and make your and like God will chop down your trees and put you in a wilderness we got to plant again. You know what I'm saying?
Let's take that analogy a little step further. In regards to someone, let's say, who maybe not as aware as the three of us in regards to what trees, what garden they specifically have. How would they understand what trees to potentially chop down or what trees they actually have potentially to chop down?
The ones which bear, you know, the ones which bear bad fruit. So it's like, if we're looking at it from a spiritual health perspective, the things which make you weaker, what makes you weaker? You know, what do you know about yourself or about what you're doing in your life that you know you're not happy with, that you have to remove, right? And these are very hard things to remove if they are giant trees, is what I'm saying, you know? So if you identify that you have certain problems, that you've been doing things in a certain way for a long time, that you have to get out of your comfort zone to, you know, it's really hard to attack those things.
Okay, so let's take it a little deeper in regards to finding out how we understand that specific tree is bearing bad fruit. Now, not necessarily we might not understand because we've been eating the same fruit for so long, we might not understand potentially that it's actually bad for us. So how do we understand that?
Yes.
Do we question the morals of it? Do we question our own happiness for it?
So I think one of the greatest things I ever heard somebody say is, you know, when people are on their, you know, people are going down a particular road and it's producing very bad things, you know, you must ask yourself some real questions. You have to question yourself. That's the first thing. It's like, what have you done in your life that has made your life better? What have you done that's made your life better? Like, that's a really good question to ask. I've asked myself that question before. It's like, what am I doing that I know is not making my life better? And what am I doing that I believe makes my life better? Do you know what I mean? There's a simple questions, and you can come up with simple answers to those questions, you know. And when you, but they're hard questions to look at because
it's easier not to look at them.
It's easier not to ask yourself such hard questions. Nobody wants to look at at those things. But once you've asked yourself those questions, you really confront the thing, and it's as if you knew it was always there, like you say. But when you ask that question, it can break you down really badly. It's like, it can break you down really badly.
We've all experienced some difficult areas within our own lives that potentially have broken us down to certain cores, where we end up questioning the reasons as to why we're doing certain things. I know myself and yourself, Monk, we've had some very specific thoughts. I don't know, obviously, with yourself, Moose, but I believe myself, from understanding your own perspectives, we've had the similar thoughts. Now, it's more questioning why we are actually here and are we needed. Now, at some point in life, I believe we all have this.
Are we needed?
Sorry?
What did you say? Why are we here and are we needed?
Yeah. So we question, what is the purpose of actually being in this world?
Yes. So look, I'm very lucky to know my purpose. Like, I'm really lucky, like, for real. So my purpose, like I said, is to try and execute like what I believe to be my mission. God's mission is my mission. And I try to do those things that I believe God tells me to do. And I pray and I try to get answers and I've got a project that I work on. And when that project's finished, I will have absolutely no idea what I'm supposed to do.
Okay.
It's really scary. But that's my purpose, and that's why I'm here.
Before you found God.
I was lost.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to see. So
I was lost.
You were lost.
Yeah, so that's the thing by itself. Yeah.
How did you get yourself out of that rut? What was your initial thought to then think, I need to find something that's actually going to give me this ulterior purpose? What seeds did you specifically plant in order to then
I tell you, man, I know, man, I'm so glad the conversation's going around like this, because it all ties back into stuff, which is really, God's involved even in this discussion, I'll tell you, because like you just asked me that question, I was just like Moses, man. I didn't have a plan. I was literally thrown into the wilderness in the middle of my life when I was on a particularly good, like I was doing really well with the things I thought. And then I was not doing well at all. And I was like, I had nothing. And then I had, just like Moses, I had like kind of a burning bush moment thing happen to me. And I realized that everything that I kind of thought about was not true, and that I had just to re-understand my whole world again, just like Moses. And I had to do it all from zero with nothing that I had from my old life. And so it's just like I didn't plant any. My seeds that I planted were barely conscious seeds. I was literally trying to survive in the wilderness, man, like with not much to plant. Okay. And God gave me
water,
like paths to travel and places to go, and then duties and obligations, just like herding sheep type stuff, small things. And then he rebuilt me, man. He just rebuilt me into this new person. And he taught me the reality of all the things that I was reading in the Bible. And they started becoming very real, not like just the stories anymore. They were very real. So like when I talk
of manifesting more in the physical realm, after a while, it started off mostly spiritual. But again, as we were saying earlier, as one begins to plant the seeds of positivity within the spiritual realm, that's when it then begins to manifest itself physically. It's like you were saying earlier, it starts with the spiritual, and only then
later on does it start coming through. So it's like So for sure like that, but it's like, I wasn't even consciously planning. I was literally just surviving. Even after coming to the wilderness, I was just surviving when God like really, I had like a burning bush type thing, man. So it's like when that happened, then the divine, like in the wilderness, is where you really find God in a way. So it's like in the real empty, lonely places, that's where God is to be found, and that's where He shows Himself, right? So once that's happened, then you're not the same anymore, because it's like a confirmation of like being in the wilderness and being lost, and then still having in the back of your mind or in your heart, like knowing that there was some purpose behind it or something, but you don't know what's up or down, and then God has to appear, and like you need that divine encounter, and after the divine encounter, then you try to start planting stuff with the kingdom and stuff. But it's quite a long. I mean, like we had no intention to go on to Moses and all this stuff. It's exactly like that. I lived in Egypt. I did not live in the kingdom of heaven at all, and I had to learn everything about how things. But the thing was, I was always meant to be. God had always waited for me, and like I knew about all the things, but I'd grown up without them. It's like He knew He was like He never knew He was a Jew.
Since finding this path, this divine ulterior purpose, has your life maybe changed in a specific way to make you maybe more happier in day-to-day life experiences? So let's say waking up,
yes,
in comparison to potentially let's say the time when you were going into the forest, that obviously is a very, very different mindset, and being able to actually accept and be happier for the fact that you've gone through that process, and now you're in a position where you're like, there's light, there's an oasis in front of me, and I'm so flipping happy.
Yeah, so not yet like that level, but
I think it's close.
Yeah, it's very close, but it's like I have to jump a little bit ahead in the Bible there. I'm kind of in the desert, but I'm about to cross over the Jordan to the promised land kind of vibes, right? Land of milk and honey. But the land of milk and honey is
it's got a bunch of its own challenges.
Is inhabited by giants. And
let's
take this whole thing.
By the other big players, and then it's a new kettle of fish.
It's going to be another whole ball game, which I'm so 100%. so excited for.
100%. So let's take this as an ulterior sort of mindset game. So how do you then or let's not make it specifically about you. How does an individual who is this close to getting to that oasis, that perfection in a way, right?
Yeah.
How do they stop themselves from getting overexcited and not actually hitting the right goal to actually get them across that bridge?
I think there's two parts to it. It's number one, it's actually you need courage to do the last part, because it's like once you've been in the wilderness for a long time, you get used to being in the wilderness. And when you go into the new place, in my particular example, it's I need a lot of courage to do this last part, because it's like I've been being prepared for it for so long that now it's almost like I've got trepidation to walk across the finish line, because at the other side there's a whole new chapter which I'm not familiar with, and I'm kind of just finishing this one, and now I have to look at a whole other saga in front of me, and it's like, to be honest with you, it's kind of overwhelming. It's like I feel like Moses might have got off light by being like, you're just going to stay here, not going to go to the problem. I was like, cool, I'm done. I've had enough of this anyway. Like, I swear. So it's like, yeah, I think you have to, and it's said in that time, be strong and of good courage is the first motivation thing. You have to have courage to do the last part and not bitch out. And then also,
how do you not bitch out?
You need courage. That's something you found. If you didn't find courage in the wilderness, you shouldn't have made it out. Okay, so you everybody that goes through the wilderness accrues courage. Okay, I'll tell you right now. So you just need to accept that you're going across, because you've got two choices. You're either going to stay in the wilderness. The wilderness sucks, by the way, and then even once you're used to living in it, you know that all the good stuff is just over there, and you have to swim over one more river, which is the Jordan, in a way. And I think that is a baptism of a type, because you're not going to be the same once you go through that Jordan.
Well, no,
that's kind of like actually
that's the whole point of life, though, isn't it? Moose and Monk, every step that we take on our paths, wherever our paths lead, we're leading to our own oasis. Taking this metaphor into a whole nother extreme, right? We have our own promised lands, yes. And we're all traveling on our own paths. We're going through our own wildernesses, however it may appear to us, right?
Yes.
Now, we all are growing as per each step or even inch that we take, because whatever happens that's happened behind us, it's gone. It's done.
Yeah.
We are now better for that because we have gone forwards. But that's what we've got to make sure we focus on, is making sure we're going forwards. If you then start thinking about what's happened behind you and what you've, let's say, not accomplished, and you start going into this sort of negative mindset, which is what we're trying to avoid by planting these positive seeds, you're going to end up not actually completing that transition into your oasis.
Yeah, man, you can't look back and you can't look too far forward, otherwise you get freaked out.
Exactly.
You can't look too far back, otherwise
you got to take it slowly.
So you actually just
take it to your
speed. Yeah, you need step by step things. And the best thing to do is like I say, man, God commands you to go to the promised land. Just obey it and keep walking. Like, these are the simplest things. That level of obedience is very important, because it shuts down.
Would you say don't restrain, you don't have to force it? Just let it happen.
No, I would say do not. Yeah, don't restrain and don't force it, but continue to journey. So you have to work continuously. You're not resting as if you're in the promised land already.
No,
and you're not bitching about the desert and the wilderness. You just have to continue working, and before you know it, you're in the promised land already, and you don't go back.
Each day as it comes,
once you cross the
work through it, and just become better individuals from each single experience we have.
If we can link this to something which we were talking about before, in regards to each and every person having their own subjective purpose in this world that they seek to go forth and fulfill and pursue, and how so often the goal changes depending on the purpose that somebody follows, it would seem that the most effective way of going about finding a purpose that, no matter what happens, is probably the right thing to follow, would be in, Moose, as you were saying earlier, giving up any kind of resistance towards the Holy Spirit, right? Towards certain deeper intuitions that late at night are whispering in our ears saying, today you should have done this, should have done that. But again, it's we were talking off mic earlier with Reggie. We're talking about the importance of a person having time at the end of their day, either on a walk or journaling, just to spend some time with themselves and get to to assess how did the day go, not in a sense of looking too far back and freaking out about how things went, but a genuine curiosity to say, right, how did today go? What did I do well today? What could have been done better? Where can I be grateful for what happened? Where could I ask for help in my future endeavors? What could I do better? And finding a balance between learning from the past and striving for the future vision.
Could I jump in there for a second,
Yeah.
Monk and Moose? Is just I wanted to add a little point in with an addition to your point, saying if you're lying in bed and you've got the thoughts running through your mind, I should have done this, I could have done this today, why didn't I do this? Already, without even, let's say, wanting to, the subconscious is in a negative state of mind. You're already putting yourself in a position of, I didn't accomplish what I could have.
No, I agree. I would say I would agree with you completely. I would say that it's probably I totally do not analyze it. Like I do not analyze my day because
I would prefer to be thinking what I've done correctly and what I have actually accomplished well, because then the next day I'll be more sort of encouraged to do more, to actually say, I've done better than I did yesterday.
I think that if you're working hard, there are certain things that are going to frustrate you, which you're going to think about, which like guys haven't done shit that need to be done, guys are not delivering, things like that. That stuff drives me nuts. Okay, because that stuff's like it starts affecting my productivity. You know, that stuff kills me. Okay, like what other people are doing that's affecting me. Or my business or whatever, or my mission, the worst thing in the world, guessing if guys are going to do what they say, call back, do this, whatever. I hate that. But if I haven't done something during the day, I know it already by the time I'm home. If I didn't send an email, I didn't do the thing that I wanted to do, or accomplish something, and then it's already on my shoulders that day. It's not going anywhere. I don't have to, like what I'm saying is like, I think if you have to analyze your day every day like that, I don't think you're working.
It's almost like caught in the quicksand almost.
Caught
in problem identification mode as opposed to striving for the future and moving forward.
I think if you're working every day really hard, it would be really hard to have the time to be like, I have a whole list of things I could have done better. Because
reflecting
you'd be doing
something that's not necessary.
You would have done what you can do. No, but like if you know what you're doing, by the time the day is over, you've done work or you haven't done work. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like if you have to get home and be like, there's a whole bunch of work that I did, which I'm scrutinizing whether if I did it well or not. Most probably you didn't do it well because you're scrutinizing it. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, do you scrutinize your admin work after you've done it? No, it's done. You know, it's like I don't scrutinize my work. It's like if you haven't done your work or something, then
that's the thing. It's a subconscious mind sort of itching that's continuously sort of pushing on your brain. If you know you could have done a better job, you're going to be forcing yourself to be thinking, what could I do better next time, or why could I not complete this goal, rather than actually accomplishing it, in which case the subconscious is not going to be thinking about that specific task because it's done, it's finished. And
or
I totally get
having given 100%
I have
something means that at least you go to bed at night and you're calm because you know I did what I had to do, I did what I could do.
If you've done your best on something, you don't even think about it. You're actually just happy.
Right. That's what you were saying earlier, Moose, about there's certain things once you've done everything you can do, there are certain things after that which it gets difficult to take extra responsibility for. Not saying don't take responsibility for one's actions, but there is a certain extent by which one begins to assess the environment around us and say, okay, is it a case of the farmer who throws the seeds and some of them go wayward? Sometimes there's certain environmental circumstances that don't work your way, but linking in with the mindset of stoicism and philosophies and ideas associated with that, of controlling what you can control, and with the rest of it, learn how to put that to the side and not be ignorant of it, but to not let it negatively affect oneself emotionally, mentally, and spiritually.
We just wanted to also mention that we're hosting this podcast on YouTube, which is actually also in the description, which you can find through Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, and many more other platforms. So don't forget to check out the video as well. So in regards to our solidified sort of understanding within the spiritual seeds that we are planting in a day-to-day, how can an individual eradicate the negative spiritual seeds that get planted naturally without us even wanting it to happen? So,
man, forget about the negative seeds. Okay, you got plenty of those lying around. You got to focus on planting positive seeds. Okay,
how do you focus?
You want to focus on planting,
or more like if we link this to last week's podcast, right?
Yeah.
Quick little brief summary. One particular mistake that gets made extremely often, yours truly has made this mistake many times, is it's all good noticing particular, again, things we could have done better, but then if it's not replaced with something positive, then there's a problem, right? So more like we're asking, how does one go about removing the weeds from one's garden and replacing it with good seed, as opposed to just saying, look, there's weeds there, and you do nothing about them and you just see weeds?
It's like the what did I do wrong at the end of my day question. It's like the weeds, you can remove the weeds. You know what I'm saying? It's like just focus on planting good seeds. So it's like, first of all, first of all, we're talking about spiritual seeds. What the hell do you guys do that's spiritual? Number one, okay? First thing.
Attempt to pray each day,
but there's attempting.
Slowly.
Yeah, there's attempting to pray and then there's pray. Okay, so it's like
that's the thing. Everyone's understanding of the spiritual aspect of life is going to be different. So how can
meditation,
you truly understand what someone's spiritual seeds are until you're actually in?
No, I'm just telling. So I'm telling you how to cultivate a spiritual, cultivate spiritual skills that allow you to plant spiritual seeds, right? Whatever you have. So you need to have a spiritual life in order to be able to plant spiritual seeds. So, focus on things that are spiritual, like such as prayer, meditation. First things right there. Prayer, meditation, worship. Okay. There are things that you can look into, which every single denomination of faith believes in. Okay. Meditative practices, prayer, and worship. So try and look into those and start doing those. And then you it's like saying you've never ridden a bike, you can try. You know what I mean? So it's like if you want to go and meditate, that is probably the most the easiest thing to do. Still your mind, try to really find some peace for like a period of time without worrying about anything, without caring about anything. And even what I do is sometimes I will sit there and I'll have a tremendous amount of nutcase thoughts going on in my mind, all these problems, and I will try to physically make myself happy by by not focusing on that stuff and actually thinking about stuff like love or good thoughts,
right? And actually
or memories.
Manifesting love out of thin air almost.
Yes, exactly.
Oh boy.
But it requires, now let me just tell you, these things require energy, require effort. And when you've never done them before, ever, it's exhausting. It's really tiring. It's like, if you have to go and pray for an hour, first of all, you won't be able to, because you won't even know what you're doing. You'll just try it and you'll see. But it's like, meditation is something that is pretty cool. It requires discipline and these kind of things. And in these real still moments, things become apparent. When the din dies down, you can identify things better. You can get out of ruts of thinking. So meditation is very, very powerful, and it's a form of acquiring peace, and it's a form of entering a spiritual mind frame. So that's one way, and then prayer should follow with it, and prayer is to God, because depending on what you are to your listeners, but I'm telling you from my perspective. So prayer is really interesting as a topic, okay? Because you can have petitionary prayer where you ask God to do things for you. Ask him to enlighten you to things. Ask him what you're doing wrong. Ask him for things like money and food and whatever. Ask him to help you with PIP.
Let's say, just as an example here, in regards to someone who potentially may not believe completely in God or any terms of ulterior sort of
spiritual
higher purpose, spiritual realm or whatever. Let's say there's someone who
it's going to be hard for that guy to
completely atheist and doesn't believe in anything like that. No higher powers, nothing like that.
Yeah.
How can you
then he doesn't
translate
believe
that to them?
What do I do with that guy? First of all, you got to try to introduce him to the fact that there's a spiritual domain that exists, and it's like talking to a person that lived in the ocean, under the ocean his whole life. So it's very hard. If you made a serious choice that it's not there, or you've been taught that it's not there. It's like meeting a guy from North Korea, and just because you're white, he thinks you're a bastard and a rapist, okay? Because that's what he taught when he was a child. So it's really hard to get through these kind of barriers, man. So, I'm not trying to evangelize here. And if there's militant atheists watching, you're wrong. So,
let's legit break that down.
Start right there.
Let's break that down with the example you gave of North Korea. And for example, if someone lived under the ocean all their lives, a really valid point is, and I myself have been one of those militant atheists in the past, highly drawn to the argument of, again, extreme skepticism, saying unless it's something that can be proven, it doesn't exist. And there's the problem, is humanity for thousands of years has always, whenever we have been unable to understand something that has gone on around us, we have attributed it either to something magical or mystical, or there's always been some mythos attached to why things happen. And then again, as the scientific method and empirical methods have advanced in understanding, the last 400 years since essentially the Renaissance have come by, and a lot of the mysteries of the world have been shunned, right? It seems as though there's a balance missing between understanding the usefulness of science, right, and rational empirical thinking, whilst at the same time an appreciation and deep understanding for the fact that there's so many things we don't understand right now that are so much more complicated than we possibly think they are. And to make the ignorant assumption that because you can't prove it exists, it doesn't exist. Reg, you mentioned earlier about the uniqueness of somebody's spiritual experience. Each and every person, though they may meditate, will not have the exact same spiritual experience. Likewise with yourself, Moose. Only just beginning to understand is like each person has a different relationship with God, though it's still a relationship with God, whether they understand it or not.
So look, let's just park the militant atheists, guys, because like for real, it's like, we can talk about it, but it's like, it is like you say, it's like talking, it's really like, if somebody doesn't believe that there is a sun in the sky, that's how striking it is for me. I struggle to talk to that person about the sun in the sky. You know what I mean? But and I'm not here to really, because I really feel it's a waste of my time to a certain degree to talk to such people. But the spiritual world is so dramatically huge and such a big thing for me that it's like I do not know how to engage with with guys that are just completely. I feel like that they're missing a sense. Like they're literally like, it's like talking to a blind man, like, describing him what you're seeing. Okay. So it's like, for those guys, I have no solution. this whole topic has nothing to do with. We're talking about spiritual topics, and we're talking about atheists. It's a waste of time for them.
It's gone into a very, very deep aspect of topics, and I believe it's definitely a topic of conversation that we could delve into another time. But in regards to cultivating that,
I've got a few friends who would be fun to have on.
Cool. Yeah. So in regards to cultivating those positive seeds, using something such as motivation, prayers, and stuff like that, going to really sort of assist you. If you're someone who can't actually physically sit down and say, I'm going to try and accomplish this, and you're doing that. Some people have the ability to do that. Some people don't. For myself, I've been meditating on a daily for the last sort of 2 weeks in the evenings, whilst I've been walking or even in the car just before work. And it's been working
very good
well for me. It's been making me feel a lot more sort of in tune with what I'm doing, made me happier in terms of coming home from work or going to work and actually going to bed. There's many, many benefits from my own personal experience. But again, everyone has a different way of dealing with certain things. It's just learning your way. Find something.
You know what it is, man? It's like it's like I say as well. It's like you have to do things that require effort. Spiritual things are exhausting, man. Like they're really, really exhausting. And it's like, and you need exposure to them over a period of time to really understand it and to engage with it properly. And it requires real time, man. So it's like if you're going to put an hour into training physically, and you're going to put 5 minutes into spiritual training, don't expect yourself to be spiritually strong.
It's the same level as
on the first day.
Of course. The one's easier to engage into a certain one, depends what you put your focus on, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean,
but exactly that. But
you're racking 12 pounds dumbbells. You hit a good set of 12.
It's the same principle.
Then the second set.
Spiritual lightweight. Yeah. Correct. So it's like. But what I'd like to describe is the three things that I believe anybody can do, which would be prayer, meditation, and worship. Okay, and those three things are very accessible for any person that believes in any sort of spirituality. So and what I do when I spend time in spiritual practice is I do all three. So what I'll do is I will go.
Sorry, Mr. Drop, but could you just clarify quick prayer and worship?
Yes.
The link between those two. Exactly,
yeah. So I'm going.
Many people might.
Yeah. So I'll explain now. So what I do is when I go and first of all I put time aside at some point to go and pray, like every day. Okay. Even if it's in my room for like whatever, I feel the presence change in the chamber wherever I am. I feel if I'm really like connecting to the spiritual realm, everything feels different for a moment, and it's like we describe like a warm boat surrounds. This is something that you can feel. We prayed, and I was like, you feel that. And you could actually feel
your half degree or something.
But you can actually physically feel it, right? And then if you pray intensely, it's okay. These are things that identifying things for anybody. Okay, you know if spiritual things are going on. Anyway, so that's in prayer. And now you have to speak honestly in prayer to God. And it's very hard to be honest, to get honest with God, do this, because you don't have a good relationship with this conversation. It's very weird. Because it's like half of like you're talking to yourself, half you're like talking to your mind. And, it's like, it's really a bizarre form of communication. But as you do it, it becomes very honest it becomes very honest. And then when you're honest, these feelings occur. Anyway, so that's prayer. And there are many different types of prayer. Ask for things, give thanks, gratitude about things that you have. You know, these things, really good things happen. Anyway, that's prayer. And then meditation. So what I do is, man, what I do though is I do worship. Okay, well, worship is for me is I sing songs that I know that were written to glorify God, and they're the songs that I grew up with, or the songs that stuck with me from church stuff, and I'll sing them by myself, and that gets me very trance-like because I sing them really like wholeheartedly. Where you know, if it's in the correct time and place, and then when I'm doing that, I lose because I'm focusing on just singing the song, and these emotions that come up, they go to God out of me like this, and my mind gets very clear, and this is the part where I'm saying it's tiring. It's like I give my energy away to God and say thanks in these songs. And then after that, when I run out of songs to sing, I'll pray to God straight after that. And my mind is completely clear. After singing the song, I can pray to God, and I have no thoughts going through my mind because I've like poured out everything I have in these songs. And then I ask God, I tell God what's going on. I ask him like stuff. And then after that, then I will sit and contemplate and just sit in the presence of this aura that I've created around myself from doing this practice. I sit like that and I wait there until it dissipates. And that was my spiritual thing. That was my time that I spent with God. Like, and it's really, really tiring, man. It's really like, it's empowering, but it's not like when you're mentally tired and you have a lot of things on your mind and you still force yourself to go and do that practice. That makes you really, really strong, man. It makes you strong in a way where not just pushing through kind of strong. It really, if you do it for a while, you'll understand what spiritual strength really is, because it's like it's a type of fatigue which is very different. It's not like your mind was already tired. Now your spirit's a little bit tired, but you get rejuvenated from doing these things in a way as well.
It's like a second wind.
This is like it's growing. It's a method of growth, spiritual growth, and you start growing, and it's actually a bit strange because it's like when you start growing, the things that you were doing before don't feel the same because you've spiritually grown. So it's like you have to do more worship and you have to pray more in order to attain this feeling that was coming. And it's really crazy, man. It can become quite a thing. But like I said,
the similar metaphor in regards to the seeds and how they grow. So let's take it as meditation as maybe either the water, the sun, or the soil. And then alternately, we have the praying as maybe the sun and the carbon dioxide, let's say, in order to assist.
Yeah, it's like the breathing. It's like you say, it's like the breathing in and out of that plant. It's like, so, you know, all the things I've described to you, all three of them involve giving to the spiritual realm, okay? Because when you worship, you give energy. When you pray, you're giving energy. When you meditate, even, that's very passive, fair enough. Meditation's passive. But you can travel in meditation, like mentally think about things.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I'm not talking, but I'm not talking about mentally, like, I'm not talking about like just sitting there and trying to find peace. Once you're there, you can start thinking about very deep concepts, and then it's not passive anymore. You see what I'm saying? So it's like each one of them is a method of giving to the spiritual realm. Now you have to receive from the spiritual realm. Now that's the thing that this is the hard part. Everything we're describing, it's like I told you guys as well. Everything when you start in the spiritual journey, it's a monologue where it's a one-way conversation until someday something speaks back. Okay. When that thing speaks back, that is when you realize how the magnitude of the spiritual realm. And this will happen eventually when you do spiritual things. And also, yeah, and what happens also is to receive from the spiritual realm is a very, very mighty experience whenever it may happen to you. And the way you can receive as well.
Point, with a nice sort of roundup in regards to the whole concept of the ideas and everything. How has that made you specifically feel, Moose? Because I think between the three of us, you've obviously gone a lot further in that journey in comparison to us.
Yeah.
Now, I personally believe like I'm getting quite far with a specific type of meditation. Now, Monk, I believe you are potentially going further in terms of worship than maybe meditation, whereas I am. Because I know you do your singing during the on the staircase and stuff like that.
I'll go into stairwells and whatnot, and again feel that feeling of very akin to what you were mentioning, Moose, in a sense of your mind is very clear at the end of, let's say, a singing or a humming or worship of some sorts, and then it feels like there's really nothing else that can really affect you in that day.
Yeah,
it's like a release.
Very, very zen, very, very chill.
Yeah. It's cathartic. It's cathartic. You know, it's like you empty yourself and then you somehow you get refilled. It's like, you know, that kind of thing with that singing and these things. It's like releasing everything negative, you know, and giving it all away. And then giving even positive things away, like, you know, really, because, you know, you can't, like, when you, like, for example, I heard this preacher once say something. He said that, you know, his mother was dying. That's a very devout man of God, you know. His parents were dying, and when they were getting very sick, he told his wife, because they would pray and worship like all the time, you know. So he wasn't going to let this stop him from praising and worshiping God whilst his mother and father was dying. Do you understand? Like, and I just thought that was such a hell of a thing to say, you know, because you can imagine you kind of like blame God when these things happen, you know. I don't know how I got on that topic, but I think we're on a point.
No, it's
very deep,
though, man. It's hardest to keep the faith when one is in the desert.
Yeah, right? But what he was saying was he actually needed to continue his spiritual practice the most when these things were happening. And there was so much noise, you know, around him that, like, if he had stopped doing the praise and worship, he would have been in a really bad place. You understand what I'm saying? It's like, no matter what happens, if you can continually cultivate the spiritual landscape before you, nothing can impede upon that place. It's the most powerful thing is the spiritual realm. And it's like, yeah, but you know, I forgot where I was going with that. But
I think that's a wonderful place to leave it and to complete the entire discussion
episode. Nice.
And yeah, the episode itself, I believe, has made a really nice sort of turnaround in regards to where we've started and how we've actually detailed specific areas within planting the seeds to make sure that we can be more positive people. And I think it's been a really...
The end of the things we were talking about, planting good seeds, and then it became spiritual seeds. The 3 seeds you should plant are meditation, for spiritual matters, are meditation, prayer, and worship. Those are the 3 seeds.
Practical matters for ourselves and our listeners to apply in day-to-day lives. In fact, for coming on impromptu,
it was a hoot.
It was a hoot.
It was awesome having you on, bro. And I think
Fuck you, man.
Lovely question. One lovely question to leave our viewers and listeners with is, what is your paradise?
My paradise.
What is your paradise?
Yeah. Well, I'm destined for paradise already.
Subscribe if you haven't already, and we shall catch you soon. Peace, guys.
Yalla.
Ciao.